The old gods live.
Aphrodite was the goddess of love and beauty. So there are more stories told about her than anyone else, god or mortal.
In this video, we will discuss the old gods of Europe and what they mean to the modern Western man, how the story of the old gods is intertwined with the origin story of the West, and how the old gods live with us today, how we see them today. So humanity went from polytheism, worship of multiple gods, and then it transitioned to monotheism, the worship of one god. And that's a really interesting transformation in the story of mankind, how mankind transmuted its mental layout of the world from polytheistic to monotheistic. So what can we learn from the old gods? One way to think of it is they are the particulars of the whole. This is how the old gods still live with us. Zeus is the cloud stirrer, so the breeze, the wind. Storms is Zeus. Venus is love. Hades is rage. Apollo is music. Dionysus is drinking and losing yourself in the moment, laughing endlessly with friends. So the old gods still live with us. Another way in which the old gods still live with us is the heroic ideal. The will to victory, to triumph over your opponent's strength, standing proud in glory and victory. That is the overarching theme in the old European tales of gods, the Iliad, the Aeneid, the Norse sagas. So in your life, when you experience triumph and glory and victory and the will to propel yourself forward, that's another way in which the old gods still live. All right, let's look at some old gods. Fucking love this shirt. Okay, so a common critique of the old gods is that they're demons. And that claim is bizarre because Greece is the birthplace of civilization and culture. Philosophy, algebra, music theory, logic, democracy, high culture, high art, temples and sculptures that to this day, centuries later, set the standard for beauty and culture, all came from a people who worshipped pagan gods. And according to the Jewish God, these gods are false. The Jewish people at that time were like backwater slave people. But our gods are demons, according to theirs. Look at the specific aesthetic beauty in that. The Greeks had a very high culture, that the ripple effects in time from that culture, it's still cascading through history. It's still unfolding. The dynamic impact the Greeks had on planet Earth with their culture. And so polytheism, it's particulars of the whole. Every god is a very specific, detailed aesthetic that is worth worship and reverence. It's beautiful.
Before you go to sleep, say a little prayer.
So Hypnos, speaking of particulars of the whole, an entire god dedicated to sleep and rest. So studying and meditating upon the particulars of the whole manifest in these glorious aesthetic avatars that are gods. An avatar of an ideal, an emotion. Reflecting on that beauty allows one to grow as an individual. So the gods still live. Hypnos. This is what I mean, Latin, it's still there. That word, hypno, you invoke this god when you speak that. They still live.
And you, O Lord Apollo, god of the silver bow, shooting now afar.
Alright, this is just objectively so sick. So high society. Old Greek and Roman paganism. That's high culture. That's high society. That's the aesthetic you would build society with. Apollo is sick. Apollo is the god of music. Greek god of music, god of the sun. He played a lyre and he shot a gold bow. And he is a god I feel very connected to as a musician. Like when I play guitar, I feel it's you're invoking Apollo. You are. Everyone, music is that. I'm strumming on my guitar just like Apollo strummed on his lyre. That's deep intertwined in ancestral DNA. So the gods still live. Solar energy. Absolutely based. So all the old European religions have this overarching theme of the All-Father, the father of all gods. The All-Father typically refers to Odin, but that figure, it's Zeus, Jupiter, whatever the Slavic variation of the All-Father is, that is the Indo-European god. That is the true god of Europe. That is what we sort of project on to the God of the Bible, even though it is different fundamentally than the Jewish God. But that is truth. That feels at home. That awakens blood memories of Indo-European conquests and invigorates you to strength. These are the type of archetypes that motivate you in life. Aesthetics and archetypes sit unconsciously in your mind and middle around passively throughout the day, but they animate your behavior. They animate your conscious thoughts, unconscious thoughts too. So whatever information you take in fills up that unconscious projector. So that's what religion is. You stare into things and allow that to intertwine with your unconscious and project forth into you and make you better. So archetypes like this, the All-Father, the Indo-European god, gives you strength to will you forth throughout your day. Look at Odin and be weak. He will help you.
Oh, a little lammy boy is coming home from BFB. Oh, we've a bunch of purple flowers to decorate to Mammy's hero. Morning in the aerodrome.
I mean, look how epic that is. Solar aesthetic. Be solar. Low cortisol, high positivity. Radiant, strong individual. Let those aesthetics download into your mind and program your behavior. It's perfect. We're going to play some lyre for Apollo. It was only but a moment. All right, now that we have made our offering to Apollo, our epic, glorious hymn for Apollo, may he bless us in our continuing of this epic video. See, look at her red hair. It's blood memories. Like, that's like a Celtic god. Beautiful. Beauty is truth. Yes, may the gods bless you. You want to be a person, a human being, favored by the gods. You want the gods to be on your side. You want luck. That is the perfect thing a human being could be, is the champion favored by the gods. That's why the Jews hate the beauty of paganism, because the gods do not favor the Jews. That's why they are ugly, and we are beautiful. Look at that. Stare up at that. Imagine staring up at the authority of that perfectly divine sculpture. So this is something Nietzsche talks about, the mental difference between Christianity and paganism. You know, the pagan Roman viewed himself as a mortal man willing himself forward to the strength of the gods, to become as glorious as the gods. He viewed himself like the gods. And that's a different mental framework than the more Abrahamic view of the world, which is this constant begging for forgiveness, this weeping, mopiness. I'm so sorry that I was, strong and dominant. It's a different worldview to see yourself as striving to be strong like the gods versus constantly tempering your passions. And there's some truth to that. I really like that mental worldview. I really connect with that. I feel like I want to be living in a world asking the gods for strength, for glory, to act as if I was fated to win. That's a different worldview than the Christians who are meek and paralyzed in your fear of Yahweh. I'm not saying I'm not a Christian or anything.
And you, O Lord Apollo, God of the silver bow, shooting now afar.
Okay, that is epic. That is the solar energy the white race needs, the West needs. Apollo is the true avatar of the Aryan. Solar, beautiful, handsome, intelligent. Burning incense is really cool. Christians will tell you that that's like demons.
What's the difference between paganism and Christianity? Is it the worship of polytheistic gods? Many pagans actually believe there's one source, and the gods are and goddesses are metaphors. Pagans believe everything that exists is divine, in all of the systems. This means that destruction is divine, as well as creation. It also believes that femininity is divine, and therefore there's no problem with the masculine and feminine polarity in all things. There are priestesses in these religions, there are goddesses in these religions, because they're half of what it is to be mortal. All humans die, go back into eternity, go back into nature, come again. Everything comes again. If we're evolving, it's very slow, and on the whole, evolution is the advance of a tiny proportion ahead of the others, who can barely keep up. Now, ethically, most pagan systems are very different. Paganism tends to believe in retributive violence. It tends to believe that if you push me, I'll push you back. It tends to believe even in violence and aggression as the forethought before being attacked oneself. It tends to have an honour-based system, whereby morality is perceived hierarchically. So, the more noble you are, the more beautiful you are, the more intelligent you are, the more well-proportioned you are, the more knowledgeable you are, the more courage you have, the more favoured you are by the gods, the higher you are in a particular hierarchy. This, of course, has a converse. The uglier you are, the shorter you are, the less well-favoured you are, the less cowardly you are, the more defective you are, the lower you are in this particular hierarchy. This does not mean, in accordance with these very ancient precepts, that the lower elements cast off or done in or massacred or done down. What it means is that there's a hierarchy in all forms, both within an individual, between families of individuals, between groups of individuals. The hierarchy is everywhere, and no one's at the top in any one of the myriad hierarchies.
Two things. One, I am favored by the gods. No wonder why the Jews are offended by these gods. The shortest, ugliest people. Hierarchy is inescapable. Every attempt to level hierarchies has been horrible and bloody in human history. And it's more complicated than we can understand. Flattening hierarchies, it is communist and it is Christian. You can't escape hierarchy. You just have to accept whether you're favored by the gods or not. This is what I mean about the different mindset of the Greek compared to the Christian. Look at that. That's different. That's deep blood memories, deep Aryan memories. You want to live like this, in this mode of being, standing tall and strong and glorious with the gods, not weak, begging for forgiveness. Maybe. The gods never left. Feel the vril in your blood. Look at that. Stuff like this is deep in the psyche of the Western man, of the Aryan. Stare into that and meditate. What blood memories does it invoke? Purity, overcoming, strength, beauty, chaos. See, look at this. Is that the Temple of Zeus? Yeah. This is what the Aryan, the Western man, worshipped pre-Christianity, a Eastern Jewish religion. Worshipping strength, power, master morality, victory. That is the essence of the All-Father. So, Theodosius, he's got my name. Christian emperor. The Christians destroyed these statues. The Christians when they took over Rome, they acted like communists, and they took over the city and moved out and destroyed the statues. That's a really weird thing to learn about history. That the spiritual history of the West, the Aryan, has this completely bizarre transmutation, or it was like a communist revolution. Like the Chinese, they have a weird line of history because Mao destroyed everything and erased it and started a new history when he held office. So it's not coherent. It's abrupt. It's the same thing with the West, with Christianity, because the Christians took over the cities of Rome and then spread out and destroyed the pagans, which means farmer. The like redneck, regular chud dudes in Rome. And they destroyed all the statues because that religion doesn't want to worship this strength, but we should. We should have this as a part of our history. It's a very weird thing to understand about the history of the West. So the foreign Christians from the Middle East went into the beauty of Rome and Greece, and like communists destroyed the beautiful statues and erected their symbols and idols on top of it. They destroyed all the noses, because the Roman nose was a symbol of racial purity, strength, aristocracy, and this foreign Jewish cult destroyed that. It's weird. Maybe it's a triumph. Maybe it's a triumph of love over militarism. Maybe it's a little communist. So Odin represents many things, but one of the things he represents is the frenzy. You should actually dive into that and let that spirit animate you. And the Greek god Dionysus is the god of wine and party and letting oneself go. Nietzsche was obsessed with this, and that archetype should not be forgotten. The Christians sort of always push you away from that, to stay away from vices and be monk-like and meek, but to dive into the frenzy and let it animate you. All great men throughout history have that epic solar energy. Be strong like the gods. Let the gods invigorate you with triumphant spirit. staring up at pure masculine authority, the All-Father, Zeus. Odin's a strange god because he is fated to lose in end times. When end times comes, Odin is fated to lose. It's a really bizarre mental framework to believe in a god that is fated to lose. But look at the strength in this. There's no strength in modern Christianity. The West needs strength. You know, there's all these like Christian nationalist sentiment kind of stirring. The West is searching for its soul again. But when the West looks back to Christianity, that's bizarre because the West has lost its balls. And when we look to Christianity, we find more meekness. But when we look to paganism, this is the strength and fire and vigor that the West needs. The gods still live. They're still around us. This is why you'll notice the elite start wars when Mars, god of war, is near. It's still real. This is why girls are right about the fucking whatever those signs are called. The gods still live. This is the archetype, the strength the West needs. We need strength, not meekness. That's why we must meditate upon what is also a part of our history, the old gods. Okay, another thing I want to mention about the old gods compared to the Bible is the story of Prometheus compared to the story of Adam and Eve. So both these stories, one's Greek, one's Jewish. They're both origin stories about man's intellect. In the Jewish story, man is eternally cast to sin because of knowledge. When Adam eats the fruit of knowledge and he learns the secrets of good and evil, he is cast out of paradise, which is pre-consciousness, understanding of knowledge. So pre that was paradise in the Jewish tales. And when he understood knowledge, he was cast into sin and kicked out of paradise. It is now worse from him. In the Greek tale of Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods, man was an animal. It was bad. Life without knowledge was hard and animalistic. And Prometheus charged up to the skies and stole fire from the gods and brought it down to man. And then we went from bad to good. Knowledge built society. Knowledge is good in the Greek view. And that's just right to me. That seems right. That rings to me right. And the Jewish tale is strange. Promethean fire fuels the West. What we have learned from the old gods is that the Western man, through the old gods, can find strength to will himself into the Ubermensch and to not become the last man, the bug man. Share with someone who's in need of strength from the gods.